Good morning, dear students. Welcome back. So, how are you all? Okay, so ready for reading the chapter further, right? Some of you must have read it completely. Okay, if not, please read the chapter. Even though you will be reading it along with me in this video, but you can read the chapter yourself also if you have downloaded the book, the chapter from the book. Now, when we hear about Egypt, what comes to our mind first of all? Pyramids. Pyramids are very famous there, and when we hear about Egypt, we consider it famous for the pyramids, the Great Sphinx. You must have heard about Sphinx, which has a face of a human being and the body of a lion. The Great Sphinx. The Great Pyramid of Giza, which is the oldest one of the 7 wonders of the world. It's also known as Pyramid of Khufu. Now basically, children, this pyramid were the structures made on the tombs. They were constructed in order to secure the place where the pharaohs were buried, where the pharaohs' mummies were under the ground, inside their tombs. And similarly, we were studying about King Tut or King Tut's discovery of his tomb, how Howard Carter discovered his tomb in 1922, and after 82 years in 2005 it was scanned for the first time. CT scan was done, and we also came to know about the treasures that was buried along with his body. Now, yesterday I told you that it was also known as, he was also known as Boy King or the Golden King. Now, he was the last heir of the 18th dynasty of the Egyptian kings. As he had no children, we also came to know about how it was so difficult for Howard Carter to investigate because of the resins that were used to fix the body inside the coffin. It had hardened, and it was very difficult to remove the dead body for further investigation. Now, further we are going to read his family lineage and how for the first time the CT scan machine, how it was erected, where it was placed, and how the CT scan was done. Zahi Hawass, the Secretary General of the Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, he was one of the 10 members of the project, and how they successfully CT scanned the body. And also we'll come to know what did they come to know from that CT scan. What was the conclusion? So let us now read the chapter. So let us continue the reading of the chapter. Amenhotep III, Tut's father or grandfather, was a powerful pharaoh who ruled for almost 4 decades at the height of the 18th dynasty's golden age. His son Amenhotep IV succeeded him and initiated one of the strangest periods in the history of ancient Egypt, The new pharaoh promoted the worship of the Aten, the sun disk, changed his name to Akhenaten, or servant of the Aten. So, students, in this paragraph, as you can see, the author has described about King Tut's lineage, family lineage, in which they believed that Amenhotep, who was a powerful pharaoh, he was a grandfather of King Tut, and he ruled for almost 4 decades at the height of the 18th dynasty's golden age. So that was a period of prosperity of these Egyptian kings, and later on his son Amenhotep IV succeeded him and initiated one of the strangest periods in the history of ancient Egypt. So Amenhotep IV, his son, had brought about drastic change in Egypt in his period of reign. The new pharaoh refers to Amenhotep IV. What did he do? He promoted the worship of the Aten. Aten by Egyptians was the sun disk. It was the sun god known as Aten. And not only that, he changed his name to Akhenaten. From Amenhotep IV, he changed it into Akhenaten, and which meant servant of the Aten. So thus he brought about a change when he changed the worshipping of the religious god Amun, and made the people, or forced the people, to worship only a single god, that is Aten, the sun disk. Besides making the changes in his name, he also changed the capital of his city of Egypt, and changed it from old city of Thebes to the new city of Akhenaten. Now please pay attention. His name was Akhenaten, whereas the name of the city is Akhenaten. So the first 4 letters of the name of the king and the city are same, but the latter half is different. You can see the name of the king was Nathan, whereas the name of the city was Taten. So the new city of Akhenaten became the religious capital, and which is now known as Amarna. He further shocked the country by attacking Amun, a major god. So earlier Amun, the major god, was being worshipped there in Egypt. And how did he do that? He attacked Amun god by smashing his images, closing his temples. It must have been a horrific time, said Ray Johnson, the director of the University of Chicago's Research Center in Luxor. Luxor is a very famous city in Egypt, the site of ancient Thebes. Now the Luxor is on the eastern side bank of river Nile in Egypt. As you all know, you have studied geography, you may be knowing that river Nile flows through Egypt. And on the western side was the valley of the kings, where there was the burial ground of the kings. On the eastern side was Luxor. The family that had ruled for centuries was coming to an end. And then Akhenaten went a little wacky. Wacky means amusing in a slightly odd way. Actually, wacky means becoming crazy, funnily crazy. People make fun of you when you act in a crazy manner. So in this way, finally, with the rise of or ascending of Akhenaten or Amenhotep IV, the family or the 18th dynasty was almost coming to a halt or a ruin, or it was coming to an end. Regardless of his fame and the speculations about his fate, Tut is one mummy among many in Egypt. How many? No one knows. The Egyptian Mummy Project. So there was an Egyptian mummy project started. It began an inventory in late 2003 and has recorded almost 600 so far and is still counting. The next phase, scanning the mummies with a portable CT machine donated by the National Geographic Society and Siemens. Siemens, they are the German manufacturers of this CT scanning machine. King Tut is one of the first mummies to be scanned in death as in life, moving regally ahead of his countrymen. So in this way, King Tut became the famous and the first mummy to be CT scanned, and in this way he became ahead of his countrymen. Hardly any of the kings before him are known, so wide known around the world. So he was the one who is so famous even as in life and in death also. So what is the function of this CT scan machine? The computed tomography machine, how does it work? A CT machine scanned the mummy's head to toe, creating 1,700 digital X-ray images in cross-section. So the whole body is put into the machine, the CT scan machine, and from head to toe, 1,700 digital X-ray images in cross-section were made and seen. Tut's head scanned in 0.62 millimeter slices to register its intricate structures, very minute structures of the head was found out with the help of scanning it in a very you can see the measurement, 0.62 millimeter slices of this X-ray images. Takes on an eerie detail in the resulting image. An eerie detail, that is, this intricate imaging of Tut's head or Tut's head gave a eerie, strange detail in the resulting image. With Tut's entire body similarly recorded, a team of specialists in radiology, forensics, and anatomy began to probe the secrets that winged the goddesses of a gilded burial shrine protected for so long. So, when Tut's entire body was scanned and studied, investigated, a team of specialists in radiology who operate the CT scan machines, forensics, and anatomy began to probe the secrets that the winged goddesses of a gilded burial shrine protected for so long. For 3,300 years ago, King Tut had died, and he was being protected by the winged goddesses, perhaps the angels, and from that particular burial shrine, it was taken out for the first time for the CT scan. So in this paragraph, the author has described that it was a Herculean task in those times to take a dead body for scanning. And the CT scan machines that you find in the modern times is far more better and modernized rather than the previous one. The night of the scan, what happened on the night of the scan when the scanning was to be taken place, and this CT scan machine had been carried to the Valley of the Kings where the tomb was, from where the mummy was. Therefore, the workmen carried Tut from the tomb in his box. like pallbearers, they climbed a ramp. Pallbearers are the one who carry the box, the four people who carry the box, the dead body's coffin. They climbed a ramp and a flight of stairs into the swirling sand outside, then rose on a hydraulic lift into the trailer that held the scanner. So this was the construction of the CT scan machine. There was a trailer, a tray, kind of a long tray through which something can be sent from one end to the other end. And that trailer had scanner on one end. And with the help of hydraulic lift, it was lifted. So the flight of stairs connected till the trailer, and the ramp reached the trailer. So how did this workmen, what did they do? They carried the dead body, the box, and they put it in the trailer. And with the help of that hydraulic lift, the box trailed into the scanner. 20 minutes later, two men emerged, sprinted for an office nearby, and returned with a pair of white plastic fans. The $1 million scanner had quit because of sand in a cooler fan. And to make the CT scan machine work, they had used plastic fans. Okay, so these fans used to give out or cool the machine so that it should not get heated up. The $1 million scanner, now it was a very expensive scanner because it was the new invention at that time, and it required a lot of money for its creation or for its construction. And this scanner had quit. Quit means stopped working because of sand in a cooler fan. And this sand had entered the fan, the cooler fan because it cooled the CT scan machine. Curse of the Pharaoh, joked the guard nervously. And they felt that it is the curse of the king, the dead king, because these people, they used to believe that they are disturbing them in their death also, and that's why they will curse like this. And in this way, the scanner stopped initially. Eventually, the substitute fans worked well enough to finish the procedure. So they had to take the help of the substitute fans. The fans that were there already, originally they stopped working because of the sand, and the substitute fans completed their work eventually and finished the procedure. After checking that no data had been lost, the technicians turned Tut over to the workmen, who carried him back to his tomb. Less than 3 hours after he was removed from his coffin, the Pharaoh again rested in peace where the funerary priests had laid him so long ago. So after scanning successfully, they took him back to his tomb and again laid him to rest in peace. Back in the trailer, a technician pulled up astonishing images of Tut on a computer screen. So after scanning the dead body, when the dead body was placed back in his tomb, then the technicians started their work. And what did they see? On the computer screen, they saw astonishing images of Tut's head and neck part and his limbs. A grey head took shape from a scattering of pixels. So when they were seeing the graphic image, they saw the pixels forming a kind of the image of his head. The technician spun and tilted it in every direction. So you all know that how graphic images can be seen from every direction on your computer screen. You can manage it. And therefore, this is how the technicians worked. They did their work very efficiently, and they could see the neck vertebrae. Vertebrae is the the bones, that small bones that make our backbone. That is, right from the neck part to the lumbar part to the waist part, we have 33 bones, small bones joined together to make our backbone. So this neck part, the vertebrae, the small bones could be seen, and it appeared as clearly as in an anatomy class. Anatomy is the study of human body, the internal organs of the human body. Similarly, other images revealed a hand, several views of the rib cage, and a transection of the skull. So they could see all these images very clearly. Rib cage, the chest part. So in this way, they could scan the dead body very successfully, which they were having a kind of anxiety and pressure on their minds that whether it will be fruitful or not, their efforts will be successful or not. But for now, the pressure was off. Sitting back in his chair, Zahi Hawass smiled, visibly relieved that nothing had gone seriously wrong. So now Zahi Hawass also took a sigh of relief. He was feeling very comforted, happy that their project was taking shape and it was successful. So he was visibly relieved. He was looking very calm and comfortable. Until then, he was under a pressure. That nothing went wrong seriously except the fans that did not work, that stopped due to the sand. I did not sleep last night, not for a second. So he told other members of the project that he did not sleep last night, just not for a second, because it was the night when they had to scan the dead body of King Tut. I was so worried, but now I think I will go and sleep. So this is how he felt, very peaceful and calm at that time. And he felt that he could be very comfortable in his sleep. He can take a good sleep that night. Zahi Hawass, you all know that he was the Secretary General of the Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, and he was also one of the members of this project. By the time we left the trailer, descending metal stairs to the sandy ground, so descending now, when they had gone upstairs, now they're coming down from the metal stairs. Metal stairs are the temporary stairs, staircase made of metal. Those are the temporary ones. You can shift them from one place to another. So by the time we left the trailer, came down on the sandy ground. The wind had stopped. So the weather conditions were very harsh at that time, and the wind had stopped. The winter air lay cold and still, like death itself. So everything became calm and peaceful once the dead body was inside the tomb and it was put to rest. The winter air lay cold and still and like death itself in this valley of the departed souls. So the people who are no more, they are dead. So that is why the valley of this tombs, or the valley of the graves, or especially the valley of the kings, is also known as the valley of the departed, just above the entrance to Tut's tomb. Just above the entrance to Tut's tomb, or Tut's tomb, stood Orion, the constellation that the ancient Egyptians knew as the soul of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, watching over the boy king. So the author has described here the belief of the Egyptians, that they believed that Orion, the constellation, that is the group of stars high above in the sky, seemed to be there, that they were believed to be the soul of Osiris, the god of the afterlife. So Orion was the god of the afterlife, the constellation of stars, and they were as though guarding the boy king's tomb. The boy king, the golden king. Thus, this King Tut he was the 12th king of the 18th dynasty of the Egyptian kings of his family, and he was the only one who became so famous. He was the only one who was CT scanned for the first time, and no other king became so popular and famous as this boy king. Now, it was because that you have read in the chapter that because he died very young, and the archaeologists and Egyptologists, these archaeologists who used to make investigations and try to find out why and how did this boy die, was it a murder, was it some other reason, and therefore they are also known as Egyptologists because they used to make an investigation, an exploration of the mummies. So we will now read in nutshell what we have read till now. In fact, it is the further reading of what we have read about King Tut. Short reign, lasting impact of King Tut. Tutankhamun was a pharaoh during ancient Egypt's New Kingdom era about 3,300 years ago. He ascended to the throne at the age of 9 but ruled for only 10 years before dying at 19 around 1324 BC. Despite his brief reign, King Tut is perhaps Egypt's best known pharaoh because of the wealth of treasures, including a solid gold death mask found during the surprise discovery of his intact tomb in 1922. Students, his tomb was also known as intact tomb because in those days there used to be tomb robbers who used to take away the precious things and valuables and wealth, whatever was buried along with the dead bodies. They used to rob them away, and therefore it was found that King Tut's tomb was untouched and everything was intact, whatever was buried along with him. Therefore his tomb is also known as intact tomb. King Tut's close-knit family. In the new study, the mummies of King Tut and 10 other royals that researchers have long suspected were his close relatives were examined. So now King Tut's mummy was examined, as well as the other mummies around him were also examined to find out who were his family members. Of these 10, the identities of only 3 had been known for certain. Using DNA samples taken from the mummies' bones, the scientists were able to create a 5-generation family tree for the boy pharaoh. So in this way, the scientists took the DNA samples of from the bones of the mummies, and there they tried to find out. So they created a 5-generation family tree for the boy pharaoh. Furthermore, the mummy known as KV35 was King Tut's grandfather, the pharaoh Amenhotep III. So in the chapter you have just a few minutes ago you have read it, that Amenhotep III was the king whose reign was marked by unprecedented prosperity, and that was the most prosperous period and progressive period for this dynasty and for this Egyptian king, Amenhotep III, who was King Tut's grandfather, and he ruled for 4 decades. The preliminary DNA evidence also indicates that 2 stillborn fetuses entombed with the King Tut when he died were daughters, whom he likely fathered with his chief queen Akhenaten, whose mummy may also have finally been identified. So King Tut had 2 children, but they were stillborn fetuses, and they were daughters, but they died as little infants. The team looked for shared genetic sequences in the Y chromosome, a bundle of DNA passed only from father to son. So they were focusing more on finding the male ancestors, and you know that you have studied in your science or biology, I must say, you have studied about chromosomes, that males have X and Y chromosomes, whereas females have X and X chromosomes. So they were more concerned about Y chromosome, that is, they wanted to identify King Tut's male ancestors. The researchers then determined parentage for the mummies by looking for signs that a mummy's genes are a blend of a specific couple's DNA. In this way, the team was able to determine that a mummy known until now as KV55 is the heretic king, Akhenaten. So, the mummies, the number that was put on the king's tomb, it was KB55, and it was the heretic king. Through the DNA, they could find out that Akhenaten, and he was King Tut's father. Akhenaten was best known for abolishing ancient Egypt's pantheon in favor of worshipping only one god. As you have read in the chapter, that A.R. Williams, the author, has also said that Akhenaten was a wacky king, and he had abolished the worshipping of Amun god, and he had started the worshipping of only single god, that is sun disk or Aten. And so here the researchers found that he had abolished the ancient Egypt's pantheon, that is the churches and the temples, in favor of worshipping only one god. King Tut, plagued by malaria, required cane. So the researchers and the archaeologists who were examining the body and who were investigating about his death, they found out that King Tut was plagued by malaria. He suffered malaria, and also because of his weak body, especially his left foot, he required a cane to walk, a stick made of cane. The team's examination of King Tut's body also revealed previously unknown deformations in the king's left foot caused by necrosis or death of bone tissue. So, necrosis is a disease when the cells of a tissue, you all have studied biology, I need not tell you what is a tissue. It's a group of cells, and the cells die in a living tissue, then it is called as necrosis, and his left foot suffered that kind of disease. So the investigators believed that the malaria would have weakened King Tut's immune system and interfered with the healing of his foot. These factors, combined with the fracture in his left thigh bone, which scientists had discovered in 2005, may have ultimately been what killed the young king. The authors write about King Tut, that perhaps this is the possibility that he died because of his poor immune system due to malaria. The affliction would have been painful and forced King Tut to walk with a cane. So, when he had a deformity in his left foot, he was forced to walk with a cane, with the help of the support of the cane, many of which were found in his tomb. So many canes were also kept along with his dead body in his tomb, because, as I told you, many things are kept, right from the ordinary things to the great treasure, the wealth, the expensive things. Everything is kept in the tomb of a king, because they believed that he may require them in their afterlife also. So these canes were also put there because he used to walk with the help of the cane, but it would not have been life-threatening. Malaria, however, would have been a serious danger. So the physical deformity was not that life-threatening for him. Malaria is considered to be a serious danger, due to which King Tut died. The scientists found DNA from the mosquito-borne parasite that causes malaria in the young pharaoh's body, the oldest known genetic proof of the disease. The team found more than one strain of malaria parasite, indicating that King Tut caught multiple malarial infections during his life. The strains belong to the parasite responsible for malaria. So this is how, when they were testing the DNA of King Tut, they found the DNA of this mosquito also, which spreads malaria, and therefore they concluded that King Tut must have died due to multiple malarial infections during his life. So until now, the best guesses as to how King Tut died have included a hunting accident, a blood infection, a blow to the head, and poisoning. So these kinds of things were coming up, these kinds of guesses were made about his death. As I told you in the beginning yesterday, that there is a secret lingering around King Tut's death. So everybody had their own guesses, but finally UCLA's Wendrich said the new findings lays to rest the completely baseless theories about the murder of Tutankhamun. So in the just previous slide I showed you that how his physical deformity, the malarial infection, all this must have caused his death rather than his murder, because the UCLA's Wendrich says that all the guesses are laid to rest, which are baseless theories about the murder of Tutankhamun. So students, I believe that you must have understood this chapter, and if not, if you have any doubts, you can ask me. You can also comment in this video. Thank you.